Okay, but we'll just get started with the presentation. So thanks so much. Good morning, wherever you're based. Good evening. Thanks so much for joining this webinar on master's degrees in Europe. So won't take too much of your time today. We'll probably have about 30 minutes of the presentation, and then we'll do a Q&A at the end for anyone that might have any questions. Perfect. So yeah, thanks so much for joining. Just a few little rules before we get started. Please keep your microphones off for the duration of the presentation. Save any questions that you have for the end as well. So if you have any questions that come up during the presentation, feel free to drop them in the chat box. So it's just on the bottom of the screen. You'll have a little chat box. Feel free to drop any questions in there throughout the presentation. I'll get back to as many as I can at the end. But I would just ask, of course, that you keep your microphones turned off, and that there's when you're ready to ask questions, we'll do a little Q&A at the end of the session, okay? So for anyone that I can't get back to today at the end of the presentation, we'll make sure to keep notes of you guys and send you your information by email. This presentation is being recorded, and it will be on our YouTube channel after, so you'll be able to access it or share it with anyone who maybe couldn't have attended today. So we will get that to you probably by tomorrow. It usually takes about 24 hours for us to get the recording, so just you will have access to it after, either on our YouTube channel or we'll send it to you by email. Okay, so just a little bit about us. So I actually recognize a few names in the chat here from people that I would have met for strategy calls. So I'm Jaimee, for those of you that don't know me. I'm one of the college advisors here at Beyond the States. Been working with Beyond the States for almost 3 years now. And before that, I lived in Europe and I worked for the Erasmus program. So I helped students in Europe doing their internships, helping them with language courses, all kinds of Erasmus program stuff. So lived in Europe for quite a few years myself. I've lived in Italy and in Ireland and in other countries as well. So I'm very familiar with, packing up your life, starting abroad. Yeah, I love it. I love to help students do the same. If you haven't spoken with me, you might recognize Kristen. She's our other college advisor. She's not actually able to make it today, but you might recognize her. You might have spoken with her in the past. And we have James as well. Okay, so we'll get into it. So yeah, so today we're going to be talking about master's programs in Europe. I want to go over a few things that I get asked quite a bit, some more commonly asked questions that we get. So why Europe? That's a great kind of place to get started. So Europe it shouldn't be a backup plan. It's a completely different higher education system. There are over countries where there are thousands of full bachelor's and master's degrees entirely in English. So just to give you guys a bit of a reference, this sounds like a lot, but in our database of programs, we have over 12,000 English top programs in there. That's across bachelor's and master's. So there's a lot to choose from, a lot more than you'd think. And these full degrees are 100% in English. So there's a lot more than you would think out there. Like I said, it's not just for exchange students. Everyone can go there for a full degree. So it's perfect. So what we're going to cover today is how master's degrees actually work in Europe. I'm going to give you a few examples on costs, admissions, language requirements, housing. We'll go over a little bit how the European system differs from the US and who succeeds the most in this model and why. So to kick it off, just to give you guys a little bit of background about us, if you're not familiar with Beyond the States and what we do. So we essentially help students like yourselves that are interested in going for a full degree abroad, but might not sure what the first steps are, how to even get there, how to even find a program. There's so much information online. There's so much information in AI these days. It's a lot to kind of cipher through. So we've been doing this for years now, and we essentially will help you, find the right program for you, find the best fit program for you, and help you along the way. So we can help you, with admissions, we can assist with visa. So we're here to support you in any way that you need related to, finding your program and actually getting into the programs. Yeah, so we'll send you, again, some more information on our services, but that's a little bit about what we do. So we help students kind of at the beginning stages, help them identify the right programs and access them. Okay, so how do master's degrees work in Europe? So a little bit different. So the master's degrees are a little bit shorter, okay? A lot of them, you can actually finish a full master's program in a year, which is crazy. It's amazing. For those of you that are not familiar either, the bachelor's degrees are usually shorter as well. So a bachelor's might be 3 years, a master's might be 1 year. So you can, in theory, get a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in the same time that it would take you to do just a bachelor's degree in the US. So the masters are, only 1 or 2 years. So that's, lower total cost, faster entry into the workforce. There are a lot of benefits to the shorter, the shorter degrees. Programs do tend to follow a very clear and structured academic pathway. So when you're going to be doing a program in Europe, you won't have as many options that you would find in the States for selecting courses. The programs are kind of laid out. So when you're browsing through programs, you can almost see which courses you'll be taking, semester 1, semester 2. So it's all kind of structured and laid out for you, okay? So you'll know exactly what you're studying each year. There's a lot less filler classes, a lot less gen ed. You really kind of dive in to your subject and get into it right away, which is nice. So this structure works for a lot of people. I prefer it. I prefer to be focused on something rather than doing some random classes, but just something to keep in mind that they are more structured programs. Like I said, European master's programs tend to be very specialized and focus on a specific field. Especially at the master's level, you'll find some very unique and very specialized programs. So there's a lot to choose from, and they really are specialized. So it's kind of cool. If you have a chance to browse through our database and have a look at some of the different courses and options for programs you can take, some of them are super specific. It's great. It's awesome. Most European universities follow the Bologna Process, which standardizes degrees across Europe to make them comparable and transferable, with other European countries. So if you got a degree in Europe, it's still going to be valid in other countries in Europe and even in the States. So the education system is super standardized. They're more standardized than you would find in the US. Okay, this is a question that I get all the time with students. So there's a lot of families and students are a little bit concerned around, is my degree from Europe as good as the US? Okay, so short answer, yes. European universities don't market themselves the same way that US schools do. So there's a lot less focus on branding, sports, and all that kind of stuff, and a lot more focus on education and outcomes. So a lot of European universities are centuries old. They've been around for a long time. These are really old, cool buildings. So, they know what they're doing. They've been doing this for hundreds of years. So these schools are really good. A lot of them are publicly funded and nationally regulated. Okay, so having that public funding makes it a lot more affordable, makes it a lot, a lot more affordable for you guys. And they're designed around academic quality, not necessarily marketing. And again, this is what I just discussed in the last slide. So what makes this possible is the Bologna Process. So it's this Europe-wide agreement that standardizes higher education. So degrees are comparable across countries, recognized internationally, and structured consistently and transparently. So like I mentioned earlier, before you even apply to the program, you'll know exactly which courses you're going to be taking. So it's very transparent. You know what you're signing up for, you know what you're going to be doing, which is great. So translation for families, we put this in, a European degree is legitimate, transferable, and respected by employers and graduate schools worldwide. So a lot of people might be concerned about, coming back to the US, are they going to be able to get a job or maybe do even a PhD or something like that? And yes, it's a recognized degree. It's they're recognized. So there's no issue with accreditation or anything like that. So basically what this process does is it creates the 3-cycle system. So you have your bachelor's degrees, your master's degrees, and then PhD or doctorate programs. If I've spoken to you guys in a strategy call, I would have probably discussed this a little bit with you, but there's a shared credit system called the European Credit Transfer System, which makes it easier to transfer or continue studies, and not just in the country that you're studying in, but in any European country. So it's easy to move around universities that follow this credit transfer system. So why this matters for US students is that a degree from Europe is valid for US PhD programs. It's recognized by employers, and it's portable across different countries. There are a few exceptions. So regulated professions where you might need to get a license. So anything, related to medicine, law, teaching, even certain architecture programs, you do have to do a little bit of extra work when you come back to the US, because if you're studying, let's say, a nursing degree in Europe, the school there is not necessarily preparing you for the US licensing exam. So it's not uncommon for students to have to come back and maybe do a couple of months of self-study. But again, it's just for these professions that are more regulated. And the degree is still good. It's just the state test or the country test or whatever that you would need to do a little bit more work just to be able to get that licensure. Okay, what can you study? So again, I get asked this question quite a bit. I think there's not that much information out there on these full, degree programs, but basically almost every field is available in English. So you can go and get your master's degree in business, economics, international relation, plenty of engineering, computer science programs, lots of psychology, really great arts and design schools, liberal arts programs, social work, medical and healthcare related fields, and more broad liberal arts programs. So there's a lot. You can study almost virtually anything that you want in Europe, and these degrees are 100% English taught. Okay. Admissions. So unfortunately, when you're looking at European admissions, they're not one size fits all. It's not as straightforward as the US. It's going to vary by area of study. It's going to vary by school. It's going to vary by country. But most, generally speaking, what they're going to be looking for is a bachelor's degree in a relevant field to continue the master's. You're going to have to get your university transcripts. You're going to have to do a CV or a resume to submit with your application. You also need to submit a motivation letter, kind of like a statement of purpose, so an essay, a couple pages, just to discuss, tell them about yourself and why you want to go to that program. Sorry, I'm just seeing something in the chat. Okay, yeah, so you have you'll need to submit all of these. English proficiency tests. So if you're coming from the US school system, you would have gone to school in English. That's not a problem. But if you're coming from a different country where you didn't study in English, then you would likely need to do an English proficiency test. Okay. Sometimes you might need to get recommendation letters. These could be from employers, professors. So, if you're in your bachelor's degree right now and you have any professors that you really connect with, try to get, some letters, some recommendation letters, or get any contacts that you can, because those do carry quite a bit of weight for some universities. So, I always suggest to get recommendation letters whenever you can. I added this as well. So portfolio for creative or design programs. So, if you're going to be studying design or architecture or something like that, they usually do want to see some kind of portfolio. So if you're, if you know that this is something that you want to do and you're in your bachelor's degree right now, start putting together a portfolio as you go with some of your works. Okay. So key differences from the US is the programs do usually require a related undergraduate degree, okay? So that's something that you'll need to keep in mind. Applications, like I said, are typically program specific. So they're all going to be looking for different things. You're going to be submitting your application in different ways. So sometimes, you have to submit through like a government portal. Sometimes you're applying directly to the university. So it's very, it's a bit all over the place, and the timelines are different as well. So, the sooner that you want to go to university abroad, the sooner you can start looking at programs. You'll be able to kind of put together a bit of a calendar for yourself, so you know what you need to do to apply, when, etc. So the earlier you can start looking for your programs, the better. Just there's no surprises, when it comes to the application part. Applications are typically program specific. A lot of programs actually don't even require the GRE or the GMAT, so that's something that is quite attractive to some students, not having to have that. Again, deadlines vary by country and by university, and some programs may include interviews. And I'm actually seeing this more and more. So a lot of universities might want to do a video call with you. It could be about half an hour or something like that. So that's something that you might need to do. So just keep that in mind. That's something that I'm seeing, honestly, more and more with universities. A lot more of them are adopting these interviews for their international students. Okay. Best fit list, smarter admissions. So just to kind of go into a little bit more of, how we help. So how we can help you demystify all of this and help you, understand the requirements is we work with students on a one-to-one basis where we get to know you, we get you to send your transcripts, we get you to fill out a really detailed intake form for us. And then we meet with you for about 45 minutes. And based on all of that information, we take all of that and then we get to work. And some programs that we think would be suitable for you based on, your credentials, what you've done, what you're willing to do, which tests you're willing to take, etc. And we will help demystify that. So we'll let you know, what you need to apply, when you need to apply, and we'll help you with all of that. So that's something that we do. So we only suggest programs that you would actually qualify for based on your GPA, academic background, admissions requirements. We also take your budget into consideration. So that's something that we'll discuss. So we're only going to be, suggesting programs that, are in your budget, country and lifestyle preferences. So if you want to live in a certain climate, if you have certain safety concerns, language environment, travel access, these are all things that we, take into consideration. We also take into consideration career and internship alignment. So we want to suggest programs with strong job outcomes, built-in internships, and employer connections, super important. And we give you clear next steps just so you're not kind of lost. Because I see a lot of people now that are a bit lost, especially with AI. I mean, AI is a great tool, but a lot of the information that it gives people is a little bit incorrect. So we, we have the human element. We can help you demystify this. We've been in touch with a lot of these universities ourselves as well. So that's something that's quite nice. Okay, so I just wanted to tap this in here. I won't go into too much detail. And like I said, you will have access to these slides and the recording, so you can dive into, the tuition costs a little bit more. But just to give you an idea, okay? So we're looking at US versus Europe tuition costs. So public universities are usually $26,000 a year, let's say. Private can be, $36,000 or more. Whereas if we look at Europe, a public university is anywhere from $2,000 to $12,000 per year. So there's some schools where you can get tuition under $5,000 per year, which is amazing. Private universities, of course, will be more expensive. So you can find programs, up to $20,000 per year. But there are, some private universities that are more affordable as well. So the cost is, it's much cheaper than in the US. So that's a reason why a lot of people might want to go there, is just so you're not graduating with all this debt. So yeah, it's a great option if you want to, get a good quality education and save some money. Okay, so we did discuss this earlier, but, degree length. So in the US, your bachelor's are 4 years, your master's are 2, versus Europe, your bachelor's is 3 and a master's is 1 to 2 years. So you're saving some time. And honestly, that's saving money as well. When you're cutting off years of school, that's a great way to save some money as well. Cost of living as well. So if we look at the price, average rent in the States, let's say outside major cities, you could be paying, $1,800 a month. Whereas in Europe, you might only have to spend $900 a month on a place to live. Meal plan and daily expenses are also tend to be a lot cheaper and a lot more affordable in Europe. So lots of great ways to save money. And something as well about Europe, so global opportunities. So you have access to a lot of internships. So a lot of programs in Europe have an internship element built into them, and even at the master's level. So it's like a work experience. It could be 6 weeks, it could be 8 weeks, depending on the program, where you actually go and get some work experience in your field. And this is not something you have to pay for, separately. It's all funded by the European government, because they want to, make sure that people are getting work experience as well. So they're not just sitting in a classroom. So it's something that they really value in their education. Just having that real world practical experience. So this is something that is in, it's covered in your tuition. When you're paying your tuition, you'll be able to go and do these internships as well. There's affordable travel when you're living in Europe, which is great, and diverse and multicultural student communities as well. So you'll get to meet people from all over the world, not just European countries, but people come from everywhere to study in Europe. So you'll get to meet lots of cool people while you're doing your master's degree, which is nice. Okay, visas. So this is a big question, that we get asked in almost all of our calls. It's rightfully so. It's a bit confusing if you've never lived outside of the US. This is, it's scary. It's definitely scary. But I would have to say it's really not anything to worry about. The visa process is usually very straightforward and easy and quite seamless, especially if you can start as early as possible. So non-EU students do need a student visa or a residence permit. So this is something that you can only start the process once you have your acceptance letter in hand. Okay, so you can't even start the visa process until you've been accepted to university. So that's something that you can do. The visa application, depending on which country, can take weeks, it can take months. So this is why, again, we suggest to start as early as possible, just so there's no surprises, and you're able to get your visa in time. The requirements vary by country. So in some cases, they'll want to see financial proof. They might want to see an insurance, like a specific insurance plan that you have. They might want, certain documents translated into their language. So it really varies on the country. So again, start early just so that you're not surprised. And some countries actually allow part-time work while you're studying. So if you need to have a job, like a part-time job while you're in school, you can usually work up to 20 hours per week. Okay, so that's quite nice, a nice benefit of the student visa. We do have visa partners that are able to assist you if you have any issues here, but I will say lean on your university. So your university, once you're accepted, you're going to try to get as familiar as you can with their international student office, and they can help you, with all of the visas. They can help you look for housing resources. They're really good at supporting students, but once you get accepted. So you need to have that acceptance letter in hand and then rely and lean on the school as much as possible. But, we're here as well. If you do have any questions, if you can't get in touch with the school, feel free to reach out to us. We've seen this many times, so we're happy to help. Okay, so that was a little bit about visas. Okay, housing. So options for housing are a little bit different in Europe than you would in the States. Most of these universities don't have dorms or any kind of accommodation on site, so it's something that you'll have to find on your own. It could be private apartments that you're going to be renting. It could be shared houses that you're going to be renting. Just depends on what your budget is and what kind of situation you'd like to live in. The cost does vary by city. So of course, like in the US, some cities are more expensive, some are cheaper. So that's something that I would definitely look into before you select a country. If cost of living is a concern that you have, or something that you want to make sure you're living in a low cost of living area, start looking at what cost of living is like. We have a lot of this information in our database and on our website as well. So if you're a member, you will have access to a lot of the information on cost of living, which is great. When it comes to housing, apply as early as you can for any kind of apartment. This is something in theory you should kind of be starting as soon as you get your acceptance letter, start the visa and start the housing process. Some countries, some cities, I will say, do have a bit of a housing crisis going on. So there aren't enough apartments. So it can be in some cities a little bit challenging to find apartments. Everyone always does find one in the end, but of course, the earlier you can start, the better, just so that you're not stressed, coming up to the time. And again, your university is going to be a great resource. They'll let you know how students find apartments. So a lot of students do use Facebook groups, university portals, or agency. We have housing on our website, resources for you guys to check out. And we also have housing resources and partners that we can connect you with if you did want more support in this area. Okay, student support at the university. So this is something that people have questions around. So student support does exist in Europe. So like I said earlier, there is this international student office. Get yourself familiar with them. Make sure that you have the contacts. They'll be a really good support for you while you're there, while you're getting your degree. So European universities are designed to help students succeed while encouraging independence and personal responsibility. So what you can expect are these dedicated international offices. When you arrive, there's going to be orientation programs that you can sign up for. Not mandatory, but I would suggest to do it if your school is offering them. They usually have academic advisors, degree planning help with career services and internship guidance. So these are all things that you should try to take advantage of when you're at your university. Some schools, not all of them, but some of them do have mental health and well-being resources. And like I said, housing and visa support at many schools. So key difference versus the US is you do have this support, it's available when you need it, but students are expected to take initiative, manage timelines, and communicate proactively. So they're not going to be chasing you to make sure you're okay. You have to kind of take it into your own hands and reach out to them if you need help, and make yourself heard and make yourself known, okay? So after your degree, so what do you want to do after your degree? That's a famous question. Some students want to come back to the US, some students might want to stay in Europe, and it's actually quite easy for students to stay a little bit after they graduate. So a lot of European countries offer post-graduation work visas, which allows you to stay, gain work experience after completing your degree. So I put a few examples here, but this isn't an extensive list. So other countries have these as well, but Germany does tend to offer an 18-month job seeker visa. So if you graduated from a master's program in Germany, you have about 18 months to try to find a job at a company that will then sponsor you for a more permanent work visa, work permit. Netherlands has a 1-year orientation year for graduates. So same thing as Germany, but this one's only 1 year. And Ireland does have a 2-year post-study work visa for international students. There are a few other countries as well. I should have put this down, but actually the Czech Republic has a really cool one. So anyone that graduates from a Czech university actually has access to that labor market for the rest of your life. So even if you went back to the US for, I don't know, 5-6 years and you decide, I want to go back to Czech Republic, you have access to their labor market for the rest of your life when you graduate with a degree from Czech Republic, which is kind of cool. So that's a fun one to have a look at. Okay, so that was it from me. I know it was a lot of information to kind of take in half an hour. I know there's a lot kind of going there, but I will check the chat, and I wanted to know if anyone has any questions. You can just put a hand on your screen. You should see a hand raising thing. Okay. So, Katie, when you're saying Europe, are you including UK? So yes, so we do work with programs in the UK as well. So we have all resources for European and UK universities on our website.
So when you talk about transferability of the education between countries, are we including, is it transferable also to the UK?
Yes, yep. Yep.
Okay. Great.
And also, I mean, back to the US, Canada, Australia. So the degrees are super recognizable and transferable. Again, like I mentioned earlier, I'm not sure if you were here, there are a few exceptions, and that would be, your medical related careers, anything that requires licensure. But these degrees are, transferable if you want to then go on to get, like, let's say you did a bachelor's, you want to get a master's, or you want to go do a PhD, it's transferable within those countries. Yeah. Lise, what are the best English language nursing programs in Netherlands? So I won't get into that right now, but I will take your information and I'll send you our guide on nursing programs, okay? I won't talk about it now, but I will send you that. Okay. Okay, Nang, you're looking for a master's in criminology, migration, or educational studies and have all the required documents. You want to study in the EU for September 2026. Yes, this is something that we can help you with. So I wouldn't wait any longer. If you want to go for 2026, like you said, a lot of, application timelines might be starting to get a little bit tight, but it's still possible. There still should be something for you. So I'm going to take your information. I'll reach out to you separately. Maybe we can organize, a consultation call together. We can just discuss your goals a little bit, and we can take it from there. But there's still going to be some options for you for September. Mariana, does Spain also have a postgraduate employment visa? I actually don't know. I can't remember if they do. Usually they do, but I wouldn't know the conditions off the top of my head. It could be a year, kind of similar to Germany one. A lot of the countries do offer that, but I couldn't tell you exactly the details of it. But that's something to, if you're interested in Spain, have a look and see what their postgraduate employment visa is for master's students. Do most master's programs in the EU start in the fall, or do some also offer a spring start? Most of them do start in the fall. Again, this comes down to the way that they structure their programs. So it's quite uncommon to find spring starts, not impossible to find, but usually they are starting in the fall, and you have to start, in that academic year. Okay. Did anyone else have any questions about anything? Marley. You're also interested in nursing pre-med. So look, we'll take your information and I will send you, I'll send you the information that we have on nursing programs and medical degrees as well, just so you have a better idea. And again, Marley, we might even jump on a consultation call because there are a few things that we can discuss. It just depends on, your daughter's background. So we can have a consultation call and look at that. How does financing differ in Europe? What do you mean, how does financing differ? I'm not sure I understand the question. And just while I wait for the reply, Eden, do you know if programs allow you to bring your partner and children? Good question. It's going to depend on which country you're going to, but it's not always the case. So usually your student visa is not enough to have dependents, okay? So it depends on the country. That's something that you'll need to have a look at, and we can help you with that as well. But usually the student visa is for one person. You can't have dependents. So your partner might need to get an alternative visa for themselves. Okay, everyone. That was it for the chat. Did anyone have any other questions about anything? AB, can you be a part-time student? You can, but again, it's going to depend on the country because some countries won't give you a visa for a part-time student. So it depends. You can, in theory, yes, but unsure which ones would let you get the visa as a part-time student. So usually they want students to come in full-time. And David Johnson, about the political philosophy degrees, we'll take your email and send you some information on that later, okay? How much accommodation is there for disabilities? So this is going to be school specific. Some schools have great disability resource centers. Some unfortunately don't. So it depends on, what is needed. I'm not sure if it's, an ADHD disability where they need extra time for tests, but this is something that I would suggest that you reach out to the school before, applying and letting them know what you need and seeing if this is something that they can support you with. But I will say the Disability Resource Center looks a lot different in Europe than it does in the US. There's not as much support as you would find. But again, there are some schools that have great resource centers for that, but it's unfortunately not always the case. So that's something that you would have to take into consideration for that. Okay, perfect. So look, I'm gonna stop that here. If anyone has any other questions, I see a lot of people are asking for specific programs. So that's not really something that we're gonna go into today, but we will send you an email. Like I said, we can set up consultation calls and kind of discuss your goals and maybe work together on getting you guys a best fit list that you can use to apply to your dream master's program. All right, so like I said, this is recorded. Give us about 24 hours. We'll send everything out to you and it will be on our YouTube channel as well. Feel free to have a look at our YouTube channel. Some past webinars I've done are up there as well. So you never know what information you might enjoy to hear. So have a look at that. And look, we'll get back to you guys in the next 24 hours with recordings and with answers to your questions. But thanks so much for taking the time out of your morning, afternoon, wherever you are, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks, everyone.